Hello, this is Prof. Friends with an overview of the International Research Project for BU 311. By this time, you should have acquired the book GMMS, Global Marketing Management System. I have chosen this book for the course and eliminated the standard text. The text is often something you only read 30% of. It's expensive. This is much more targeted. I'll lecture in class on other complementary factors that you need to know in reference to international business that may not be in here, but I would say this encapsulates almost 80% of the material, the key material you need to know to be successful in international business. Now, the objective of this project will be to choose a company. It can be from anywhere in the world, one that is not in 6 other countries. It may have not expanded very much internationally. It's difficult to choose a company that may be all over the world in 80 countries. So choose one that may not be out there as much. We've had US, we've had European, we've had Asian-based companies chosen. Publicly traded, that way you can get information on it. If it's private, you need to have contacts that are willing to release information to you on the inside. But the bottom line is you're going to look at 6 countries/markets initially. You might want to choose them with some logic. They may be regional, Latin America, Europe, Africa, Asia. You may be interested in touring the globe and choose a country. You may wish to choose a country that matches the name or the origin of your dog. I don't know. I don't assess you on why you chose a country. I do assess you on the research that you've done on that country. And so you're literally going to do a deep dive on those countries in the second phase of the project. And you'll come down to 2 countries, and then in the end, you will recommend the best of those 6 countries for that company to expand into. And previously, we've had great success with this. We've had companies like Popeye's Chicken, IKEA, Red Robin, Chuck E. Cheese, others tell us that, you nailed it. You are going where we're going. Craft Brewers Association. They said, you're really headed to where we are looking at moving to next. Or the other compliment that we get is from Target. Other companies say, hey, we should have done what you're doing because we messed up. They didn't do their due diligence like this. So it's a very valuable process. It's one of the strongest ways to learn. If you look in the preface on page 27, it talks about the learning pyramid, and the strongest way to learn is by doing and teaching others. And you're going to teach me. I don't know where you're going. I don't know what company you're choosing, but I'm in this journey with you this semester. So that's the challenge, and that'll be the joy and the accomplishment that you feel at the end of the semester. So let's talk a little bit about detail of how much of the project you're doing. There are actually 3 modules in this book. You are only doing the first 2 modules, all right? You are just recommending a potential market for this company with its product to expand to. The first module, frankly, is material you've already had in basic inventory courses like Introduction to Management, Marketing, Economics, etc., any finance courses, any accounting courses. It is what we call a company situational analysis. You should be able to move through it fairly quickly. Although, again, you probably haven't had to apply this material. You may not have had to write a real SWOT. You may not have had to write a real Porter's Forces. And so it's always a strain when you move from multiple choice fill and test to actually creating a document about a company. Okay, so in module 1, I'm not going to go into each detail of each section, but it is in this book. It's great to refer to specifically. And there's a case example in this book, and there are case examples that I've posted on Blackboard for you to look at. But you're literally going to tell the story of the company. You're going to really know what the market is, what the target market is, what the price points are, what the spending is, all of those characteristics that make up your introduction to market variables that you learned. You're going to look at financials. You're going to assess whether it's ready. You're going to look at competition in that market. You're going to look at SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, externally and internally. And so it's a very nice executive overview of a company that I can read in approximately 30 minutes and get a good assessment. Now, a couple tips. One, refer to this. Two, look at some of the examples. Three, I would recommend, if you don't have a Fidelity investment account, a TD Ameritrade investment account, right now, put $25 in one as a student and go look up your company and look up your competition, because that's the first place I'm going to go. I'm going to go to the market analysis. That's going to tell me about your niche, your competition, how you're doing, what the market looks like, what's the upside to the market, even before I touch your case when I begin to assess it. The other piece is be quantitative, all right? You're all business majors. I realize there's some minors in this class, but to perform in business, you must have numbers backing up what you're saying. Don't go more than 3 sentences without a number, okay? You won't last long in a corporate or company presentation. You can't just describe things. You got to back it up. You have to quantify it. You have to justify it. If there's only one suggestion I would have for this book, in the case in the back, there's a great case on a winery. It's written very well from a marketing perspective. I would suggest it does need more numbers. And you'll see more numbers in the cases on Blackboard. All right? So quantify. All right? It's always a stretch for students in this section. You're also working in a team. I've kept the team to exactly 4 people. 5 is too much. I think 3 is not enough. Teams normally delegate it out, but you have to work together at some point. You can divide and conquer, but you've got to come back, especially for the SWAT and especially for the Porter's Forces. I honestly believe the Porter's Forces is the most difficult part to write. I don't want to read a redundant story of the SWAT. And so it really takes a mind meld of the team, okay? Now, where are you going to get this information? First, go visit a librarian. We have fantastic librarians that are familiar with this project and will do everything they can to take you through, whether it's Euromonitor, take you through journal reports. Also, this book does a wonderful job of highlighting a number of websites where you can find information. But honestly, nothing beats primary source of someone who's working for the company itself. And I'll do another YouTube on how to network, but it's best to find someone that works for the company. And if you can't do that, find someone in a similar type of business that's willing to talk to you. If it's in the electronic business, talk to them. If it's in the fast food chicken business, have someone else from another place talk to you. But believe it or not, you're going to become an expert in that business, in that industry. So find someone with expertise. Kick the tires. Learn the business. Okay? That is a differentiating factor for students when they write this and when they talk to me in the Q&A sessions on this. So in the end, you'll make an assessment. Is this company healthy enough? Hopefully it's financially healthy enough. All right. Pick a healthy financial company. It's hard to pitch one that is anemic, having problems. Some people do hypothetical examples. They pick a local grocery store, okay? You can do that if you want. I haven't had a lot of that, but I mean, this grocery store is a good grocery store, but it's nowhere as international, so you're just literally doing a study on that and then doing a international study on the international grocery business, okay? So that's module 1. I think you have approximately 3.5 weeks at this point to complete that, all right? And frankly, it's material you've had, but now you've got to apply it. Module 2 is when we get into the countries, all right? The module lets you put up to 10 countries. You've only got to do 6 for this project, okay? 6. And there are 2 parts to module 2, all right? There's part 1, which I call macro, and part 2 that I call micro. So part 1, and they've really made this model in here very, very friendly, all right? I presume by this time you've gone in, you've got a license, you've gone and signed in and got a sense for what the model looks like. And in the macro section, you're going to pick variables, macro variables, GDP, trade barriers, currency issues, internet users, computer users. If you're doing food consumption, very broad macro numbers that are somewhat familiar from your economics classes. And you're going to put them into the model and give them weights. Now, the weights total to 100%. It's important that, number one, don't be redundant. Don't pick 3 GDPs. Pick one GDP that's most appropriate for your industry, okay? But you're going to weight them. And whatever is most important, you're going to give more weight than others. Also, there's an other category, and this is very important. It's the other categories that students are challenged the most with in this project. And I will tell you, I look at them. They need to be incredibly accurate and appropriate to your industry. So in the other category, I'm trying to think, for example, if you're doing Amazon, okay, which we had recently, you've got to have internet users. You got to maybe speed, internet access. And so you're getting that specific, that's really a macro number, okay? So you're adding specific macro numbers. It's at the bottom of the model. And then probably those are ones you're going to weight the most. And then you're going to have just other variables, PPP, purchasing power, as I said, GDP, economic growth, market size, users, per capita income, disposable income comes up a lot. So you've really got to target those down and weight them, okay? I don't know how many times when I review models, I look at it and I don't understand the logic of the weighting. And there's no other categories, brought in. And I'll tell you there, it's not satisfactory. So if it's not satisfactory, it's D or less. The model helps you a lot because the model also accesses the World Bank information. This is new, and so it's made the process faster. It doesn't get all the data all the time. It kind of shows up green. It takes a while to bake, actually. But other times you're going to have to get data from other data sources, and you're going to have to input it, all right? Go to US.trade websites. Again, there are a lot of websites suggested in here. So I think I gave you a little over 2 weeks for the macro piece. It's not difficult, but pay attention to it. Pay attention to what you choose, what you select, the weightings you give it to, and make sure you have other categories that are relative to your industry and your company, okay? So what's it going to do? It's going to take those weightings and calculate them, and it's going to rank them. It can rank them in each category, but it's going to give it an overall ranking of those 6 countries. And they'll be 1 through 6. Some people immediately go to 1 and 2 when they go into the next stage of the microdata part 2 of module 2. You can do that, but be careful, okay? Because this is where your primary contacts in markets can advise you. Let me give you an example. Home Depot. Let's say you did Home Depot, Lowe's. The stats came out great for some place like Malaysia and Korea, okay? They're 1 and 2. And you go through your project, you drill down, and then you're starting to speak with primary contacts in Malaysia, and they're like, what? You think we're like you in America where we drive big cars and go with our pickup truck and pick up massive pieces of plywood and go do that stuff? No. If I want a bookshelf, I just go hire somebody to go build it, okay? So there's a differentiation of labor and jobs and sources in countries like that or Korea. So you better look at New Zealand, if that's one of the choices, or look at Canada or another country, where often labor costs are quite expensive and people are more likely to have somewhat do-it-yourself type of scenarios. So that's just a note of caution because that will come up in your Q&A, that you have chosen the best 2 to move on into the micro section. The micro section, to me, is the most difficult section of the project. So module 2, part 2, micro, it starts around 2.3 on the model, and it's highlighted in the book. And the reason being here, it offers some variables, all right? And they're good, all right? But to be honest, if you're doing Chipotle, you need to know disposable income spent on food, number of meals eaten out, organic consumption, organic supply, within the region. I mean, you need to know detailed factors, as well as other things, taxes, moving funds, profits. Those are other variables to whatever country you go into. But there's a lot more detail that's hard to get. This is where internal contacts and companies can help you. Um, Embassies are very helpful. We've had people contact embassies. They get doing coffee. They get a report on the coffee industry. They do get a report on the credit reporting industry, the banking industry, on the organic food industry, on the entertainment industry. Embassies, departments of commerce, or departments of agriculture are very, very helpful. So we literally work with many of them, or departments of commerce, as well as speaking with competition. Half the time, the competition, because we're doing a hypothetical exercise, talks to us. I mean, you're going to identify competition like yours in that market that you're looking at, and if you can speak with them, fantastic. Okay, those are really differentiating factors, and in the end, you're going to have a very compelling story as to why this one country. It's kind of like a horse race, and in the end, there's two horses running neck and neck. They're just so close. They're great stories, but there might be some nuances why one is better than the other. And so in the closing, paragraphs, you're going to say this is the one we're going to go with and why. It's often backed up with primary resources, good primary professional resources from the industry, as well as it's been documented in your own, not just periodical, but also scholarly research if you can. So that's the flow of it. At the end, you're going to meet with me for approximately 20 to 30 minutes to go through a Q&A session. We'll probably meet one time in advance of that to do a walkthrough or sort of a storyboard session of what your strategy was, what your story is. I'll look for any obvious weaknesses. You'll have a TA work with you. There'll be a TA assigned to each team, and they're a great coach. They know what's expected. And so they can help you when you get into challenges through the project. But students tell me with this project, it's one of the most useful they've gotten in their college career. Yes, it's one of the most challenging. I hear that. I hear that. Yet when they're interviewed and asked questions about things that they've done or projects or working with people and through other people, they say this is what got them the job. Or they're in the job and they need a model. Now, you may not know this, but models are used in every profession. There were probably 5 to 10 different models that I used in my career. Some I used daily, weekly, etc. to guide me. They didn't make the decision for me. They helped me make a decision. They helped to take bias out of it. But in the end, there may have been nuances, and I made a decision that was different than that recommendation. Sometimes I took that recommendation, but they were quantitatively based. Right. So that's it in a snapshot. Again, if I would say there's 2 things that I will look for in the long term when we meet in the end, that's not in this book is there's quantitative, but there needs to be more quantitative, especially in the situational analysis. I want to know specifics, a lot of specifics about your company, a lot of specifics about its market, a lot about its target, a lot about its pricing, and those items. When you work for a company, if you work for PetSmart, you know how much time a person spends in your store. You know exactly how many times they come a year. You know exactly how much they're going to spend. You know which pet is going to, bring the most revenue in from. You're going to know that if you go to an economy that's actually going up in success, they tend to have less children and more pets. These are the unique things you learn when you drill down in a specific area and industry. So I look forward to learning from you about whatever company or company you pick, and then the countries that you pick. So again, go to your TAs, go to me. When you hit barriers, I'll do a separate YouTube on networking. Last, you're choosing a team. It's important to choose a good team. I recommend some differentiation in majors. Each person needs to contribute. I will do peer reviews during the process. 1 peer review midway, then 1 peer review at the end. Most performing teams have equitable peer reviews. Everyone gets the same grade. But if you are not an equitable contributor and that's justified, I'll give you the feedback on the first one, but I won't on the second one, and your grade will be less in that case, significantly less. So everyone should pull their weight and contribute equitably from the very beginning, hopefully, okay? I expect there to be challenges, problems, dysfunctionalities. Welcome to the real world. That's why this is a good interview tool, because it's not like you're getting interviewed and you're saying, tell me about what it's like, when you work with people, and people respond, well, I'm a people person. You can say, I've worked on a project. It's hard. We had major dysfunctionalities. They'll want to know how you overcame those dysfunctionalities, because that's life in the real world. Good teams know how to self-correct, but then again, achieve their goals, and better yet, exceed their goals. So I look forward to you building an outstanding, interesting, compelling, engaging project. All right? Good luck.